My girlfriend's ex interrupted our wedding, and she left with him. A year later, she came back repentant. Karma was brutal. I'm 31 years old. What I'm about to tell you is something I'm still struggling to process, even though weeks have passed. I want to start from the beginning because I feel it's the only way for anyone to understand what I went through. This didn't just happen overnight. There was a story behind it. And although I've never been one to write on forums, what happened to me was so intense that I feel I need to tell it somewhere. I met Esmeralda almost 5 years ago. From the very beginning, I was surprised by how clear she was with her intentions and how organized her life was. She wasn't one of those people who let themselves be carried away by impulses. Instead, she had things well established. She had just ended a multi-year relationship with a man named Ro. And when we started dating, she told me directly. She didn't try to hide it or sugarcoat it. She told me that their relationship had been serious. They had even lived together for a while. But that in the end didn't work out because they wanted different things. According to her, there was no cheating or betrayal. They simply reached a point where their paths no longer went in the same direction. Hearing that, I was grateful. I preferred sincerity over her hiding things from me. Obviously, at first, I couldn't help but feel a certain discomfort knowing there was someone so present in her past. But what reassured me was the way she presented it clear, firm, and without drama. She made it very clear to me that Raoul was part of a finished chapter, and that what she wanted now was to build something new with me. With time I understood that Raoul still appeared in some aspects of her life, but not in a romantic way, rather a professional one. They both worked at the same company, though in different areas. She was a project manager while he was in logistics. Because of this, they had to coordinate or exchange information from time to time. When I found out, I wasn't thrilled about it. But Esmeralda was very open about it. She would always mention it without me having to ask. Today I spoke with Raoul because there was a problem with the suppliers, or I had to coordinate the inventory with Raoul. At first I found it strange that she mentioned him so often. Then I understood that she did it precisely. So there would be no secrets. In those years of our relationship, she never gave me a real reason to be suspicious. She was a very centered woman and very respectful of her boundaries. She never answered a message at inappropriate hours, never hit calls, and never used work as an excuse to leave the house without a reason. On the contrary, she always tried to keep me calm, showed me the progress of her projects, and told me about meetings and company problems. I felt that what she was trying to do was to make sure I knew at all times that her relationship with Raoul was strictly professional. I confess, deep down, I always felt a bit of relief when vacations arrived, because I knew that meant no contact with him. There was a moment, 2 years after we met, when I received the news that gave me the most peace of mind in a long time. Raoul had resigned from the company. He decided to accept a job out of town, something related to imports at a much larger company. I remember perfectly the day, Esmeralda told me. We were having dinner and she just said today was Raoul's last day at the company. He's going to work in Monterrey. I don't know if she noticed the peace it gave me. Truth is, I felt liberated, not because I distrusted her, because the mere idea of him being nearby was something that no matter how much I tried to hide, it was still a weight on my mind. From then on, their contact almost completely disappeared. She never mentioned him again, and slowly I forgot he ever existed. As the years went by, our relationship solidified. Esmeralda was everything I was looking for in a partner: mature, hardworking, affectionate, and with a strong but fair character. She knew how to set boundaries, knew when to yield and when not to, and she made me feel secure. She wasn't one of those people who play games with jealousy or secrets. With her, everything was clear. That was what led me to take the next step. The idea of proposing to her had been on my mind for a while, but I wanted to do it in a way that was truly special. She always had a dream to visit Hawaii. Ever since I met her, she would talk about the beaches, the landscapes, how beautiful that place seemed to her through photos and documentaries. She said she wanted to one day walk barefoot on the white sand and watch a sunset there. I decided that the moment I proposed would be tied to that dream. I spent months planning everything in secret. I saved money, organized my work schedule, and managed to make it a surprise. I told her I had a trip planned, and that she should come with me without giving many details. She suspected something was up, because I'm not exactly the most spontaneous man in the world, but she never imagined what I was preparing. We arrived in Hawaii on what was for me the most important trip of my life. I remember that first afternoon, as we walked along the beach, she was amazed by everything she saw. She couldn't stop smiling, taking pictures and hugging me every 2 minutes, saying she couldn't believe she was there. That same afternoon, as the sun began to set on the horizon and the sky was painted in shades of orange and violet, I took out the ring I had been keeping and got down on one knee in front of her. I don't think I'll ever forget the look of surprise on her face. She brought her hands to her mouth, started to cry, and could barely speak. When she finally managed to say yes, she hugged me with such force that I felt the world stop. That trip was magical. We spent a whole week exploring beaches, climbing volcanoes, trying local food, and simply enjoying being together. The proposal became the most special memory we shared. And from that moment on, we started talking seriously about the wedding. The return home was different. We were no longer just boyfriend and girlfriend. Now we were engaged, and that gave our relationship a new energy. She was happy. She called her family and friends to tell them the news, proudly showed off the ring, and was already making mental lists of everything she wanted for that day. I was surprised by how organized she was because just a few weeks had passed, she was already researching venues, looking at dresses, thinking about menus, and even the music. I supported her in everything. Although sometimes I was a bit overwhelmed by the number of details a wedding involved, seeing her so excited filled me with emotion too. As the months passed, preparations began to take shape. We found a beautiful venue with a large garden where the outdoor ceremony would be held. The date was set for the following summer, which gave us enough time to organize everything calmly. She met with her family several times to talk about the guests, the flowers, and the colors she wanted. I, for my part, took care of the music and some arrangements with the caterer. I can't say everything was perfect, because like in any wedding planning, there were tensions and arguments over small things. But in the end, we always came to an agreement. As the date approached, the excitement grew. She went to dress fittings with her mother, reviewed invitations, and spoke with vendors. I saw all of this, and felt that I was on the right path, that I had found the right person to start a family with. My friends told me that my happiness was written all over my face. And even my parents, who were a bit reserved at first, ended up adoring her. It was impossible not to, as Esmeralda had that personality that exuded confidence, always sure of herself, always with the right words. For me, the day of the proposal in Hawaii had been the confirmation of what I felt, that she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. As the preparations moved forward, each step reinforced that idea. I saw her so committed to everything, so thrilled, that it never crossed my mind that something could go wrong. What I didn't know was that despite all that security, there was something in the past that was not yet completely buried. Something I thought was closed forever, but that would reappear just when I least expected it, the moment that was supposed to be the happiest of my life. 3 days before the wedding, as Marauder began to behave strangely, I noticed it in small details. First, she was quieter, easily distracted, and sometimes seemed absent in the middle of simple conversations. That same night, while we were having dinner, she said something that unsettled me. What if we postponed the wedding? At first I thought she was joking, but her face showed a seriousness that chilled me to the bone. When I asked her why, she said she had been having stomach issues for the last few days and felt she was going to get sick right on the wedding day. According to her, she preferred to be in good health before living that moment. I confess, I was worried. The next day we went to the doctor to rule out any problems. The doctor examined her, asked some questions, finally said she was perfectly fine, that it was most likely just nerves due to the situation. I wanted to believe that, and even felt a little guilty for not having considered that the stress of planning a wedding could affect her so much. When we left the office, I hugged her and told her not to worry, that everything would be fine, that she just needed to relax. She smiled weakly, but didn't seem convinced. The following days were increasingly strange. While I was excited about the final details, I noticed she seemed more tense as if she were carrying a weight she didn't want to share. She would wake up late, avoid talking much about the wedding, and sometimes, I would find her in silence, staring into space. I didn't want to give it too much importance. I thought it was normal for anyone to experience intense nerves on the eve of their wedding. It was our wedding, and I was convinced that nothing could ruin it. For me, everything else was going well. I had the reservation for our honeymoon ready. We were going back to Hawaii place that had become our most special memory. I knew she had loved that trip. So I made an effort to plan an even more special stay, with new tours and different experiences to relive the magic of that moment when she said yes. Furthermore, my friends and I were already furnishing the apartment we had chosen together. We had visited it several times. She chose the colors of the walls and the main furniture. It was a cozy place, perfect for starting our life as newlyweds. My friends had offered to help with the final details to have it ready right after the wedding. Couldn't have been more excited. The woman of my life, our home, a dream trip. Everything seemed to be aligned. The wedding day arrived. I was nervous from the morning. I woke up early, checked my suit, the ring, and the documents over and over again. My heart was beating fast, not out of fear, out of excitement. The ceremony would be in the garden of the event hall. We had chosen with an arch full of white and lilac flowers. Best marrowed, his favorites. The guests began to arrive. Family, friends, co-workers. The atmosphere was charged with joy and anticipation. When she arrived, everyone fell silent for a moment. Esmeralda was flawless. Her dress was simple, but elegant. A radiant white that contrasted with her skin and her hair gathered in a delicate updo. She walked with confidence. And although she seemed nervous, her smile lit up the whole place. When our eyes met, felt that everything made sense, that everything I had done in my life had led me to this moment. The ceremony was beautiful. We looked into each other's eyes as we said our vows. And when we signed the documents, an indescribable emotion overcame me. We were officially husband and wife. She smiled, kissed me, and everyone applauded. I believed I saw her happy, that she was sharing this fulfilled dream with me. Party started with music, dancing, and laughter. Everyone was celebrating. The dance floor was full, and the toasts didn't stop. I was surrounded by my friends, my family, and hers. Everything seemed like a success. It was then, in the middle of the celebration, the thing I will never forget happened. Suddenly, Esmeralda approached me and hugged me tightly. She whispered in my ear, "My love. Forgive me." I stood still, confused. I asked her for "What are you talking about?" She didn't answer. She let go of the embrace and ran towards the exit of the hall. At first, I thought it was a joke, that she would come back. But we all saw her quickly get into a car that was waiting for her, with the engine running. The driver sped off, burning rubber in front of all the guests. The music stopped abruptly. The laughter died, and all that remained was a stunned silence. Nobody knew what was happening. Desperate, I shouted her name and took out my phone to call her. She answered. I accidentally put it on speakerphone out of nervousness, and her broken voice was heard throughout the hall. "My love, I'm sorry. I hate doing this today. Believe me, I tried. I love you. I love you so much, but I can't ignore my feelings for Rattle. He was my first love, my first everything. He's the one I want to be with forever. I'm leaving. I'll never come back." My world collapsed in that instant. Everyone heard her words. My friends, my parents, her parents, the guests. No one moved. I could only scream, "Why the hell didn't you tell me before we did all this? We already signed. Now, how are we supposed to get divorced from something that hasn't even started?" But she gave me no more answers, only said through tears, "Forgive me, Abel," and hung up. The silence was broken by her parents sobbing. I saw them hugging, but there was something in her mother's expression that chilled me. She didn't seem surprised she wasn't crying in confusion, but with a contained pain, like someone who already knew what was going to happen. That image has been seared into my memory. Ever since then, I've suspected that she knew, that she was aware that Raoul had returned to the city, or that they were in contact. I have no proof, but I can't stop thinking about it. The party dissolved in a matter of minutes. My friends surrounded me to support me, hugged me, and practically dragged me out of there. I was in shock, barely able to process what had happened. The woman who just minutes ago was my wife had abandoned me at our own wedding to run off with her ex-boyfriend. All in front of our families, in front of everyone who loved us. There is no greater humiliation. We returned home, and I spent the night surrounded by my friends, who took turns staying with me, so I wouldn't be alone. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages piled up. None were from her. I tried to call her 1,000 times, each time with the absurd hope that she would answer and tell me it was all a mistake, that she was coming back. She never answered. The following days were hell. I didn't sleep, barely ate. I would wake up at any hour of the night to see if there was a message from her. I checked social media looking for traces, any sign of where she was, who she was with, what she was doing. Nothing. She had completely disappeared. The only thing left was that speaker phone call that everyone heard like a death sentence. Weeks passed. And then months. Nothing changed. Not a message, not a call, not an attempt at an explanation. Nothing. She had simply left with Roll. The man she had told me so many times was just a memory from the past. The same one who, according to her, posed no threat to our relationship. The same one for whom she left me at the most important moment of our lives. I still don't understand it. I got married. We signed the documents, and in a matter of minutes, I found that my marriage was broken before it even began. There's no manual for something like this. There's no way to describe the emptiness it leaves. I still wonder how she could have kept all that to herself until the end, how she was able to plan every detail of the wedding, to smile at the ceremony, to say, "I do," in front of everyone, knowing she was going to run away. It has been over a year and a half since that day. My life changed in the most humiliating way possible. I didn't think I would write about this again. But I'm doing so because the unexpected happened as Marauder reappeared. And although I no longer feel the same for her, I confess that hearing her voice stirred up memories I thought I had buried. My life is different today. After the failed wedding, it took me months to regain some semblance of normalcy. My trust in people was shattered. The idea of falling in love again seemed impossible. 6 months ago, during a business trip, I met Diana. She was part of a team from another company we were collaborating with, and from the first moment, there was chemistry. What began as casual conversations turned into something serious. Diana has a strong, direct personality, but at the same time she is affectionate and empathetic. By her side, I regained the hope of building a relationship. I wouldn't say it has been easy, but she has shown me what it truly means to be a life partner. Everything was going well until I received that call. It was a typical afternoon. I answered without looking at the number, and on the other end, I heard a voice I recognized instantly. "Abel, it's me, Esmeralda." I felt my stomach drop. It had been over a year since I had heard anything from her. I was silent for a few seconds, not knowing what to say. She broke the ice. "Forgive me for everything. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I want to start over with you." My reaction was one of disbelief. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. How could she have the nerve to show up after what she did? I replied coldly, "Do you have any idea what you caused? What you put me through?" She insisted, crying that it had been a mistake, that what she felt for Roll wasn't real, that she had gotten carried away by nostalgia, and had destroyed my life and hers for a wrong decision. Couldn't take it anymore. I told her clearly, "No, there's nothing to talk about. You made your decision, and now you live with the consequences," and I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. A few days later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, I saw her. Esmeralda was standing there in front of me. I must admit, barely recognized her. The woman who was once impeccable, self-assured with a sparkle in her eyes was gone in. Her place was someone visibly deteriorated. She had gained a lot of weight. Her eyes were dull, and she had an air of defeat about her entire being. "Please, Abel, just give me a few minutes to talk," she begged with a broken voice. The problem was that Diana happened to be at my place that day. She heard the voice and came over to see who it was. I don't need to explain the discomfort I felt. I looked at Diana and said the first thing that came to my mind. She's the one who left me at the wedding, the one who abandoned me in front of everyone. I expected Diana to react with anger, or to ask me to close the door. To my surprise, she said calmly, "What? I am interested in what she has to say. Let her in you. 2. Talk. I'll step aside as Marauder entered my home for the first time in over a year. She sat on the sofa with trembling hands while Diana moved aside a little, watching with her arms crossed. I remained standing, unsure if I had the strength to listen to her. Then she began to speak. She told me that as soon as she left with Raoul, everything turned into a nightmare. At first, she thought she had made the best decision of her life. According to her, he had promised her a life together full of plans and love. He told her he had always waited for her, that he had never forgotten her, and that now was the time to reclaim what they had lost. She, blinded by those memories and nostalgia, believed his words. Didn't take long for her to get pregnant. Initially, Ro seemed happy with the news. But as the months went on, he started to distance himself. When the baby was born, instead of uniting as a family, he almost completely detached himself. She told me, sobbing, that he would be away for days, that sometimes he wouldn't even answer her calls, that he didn't give her enough money, and that when he was home, he would verbally abuse her with cruel words. I realized too late that I was wrong. The man I thought Raoul was no longer existed, or maybe he never did. And I ruined my life, and yours. She begged for my forgiveness, over and over. She said she had made the worst mistake. Every day she regretted it more, that she had let go of the only man who truly loved and respected her. I know you have someone. I know I have no right to ask you for anything. But if you ever felt something for me, help me. I'm not asking for us to get back together. Just help me get out of this. Before I could answer, Diana spoke. Her tone was firm, direct, even sarcastic. Honey, you are just unbelievably stupid. Leaving a man like him is something that really needs to be analyzed. Abel is handsome, loving, faithful, respectful. He has a stable job, a solid financial situation. He's the best catch I've ever known. And what did you do? You left him for your ex. The same one who probably promised you the moon, and gave you hell. He got you pregnant, mistreated you, and abandoned you. I don't like to mock other people's misfortune, but your case is truly mock-worthy. Seriously, what did you expect to happen? I suppose you're not going to forgive her, right? Abel. I stared at Diana. Her harshness was brutal, but she wasn't wrong. I answered calmly, but firmly, not. She made her decision. And now she must live with her consequences. Her bad decisions are not my fault. I'm not going to carry a burden that I didn't cause. So go, Esmeralda, get out of here. She broke down crying. She could barely look me in the eye as she stood up and walked to the door. She left, humiliated, defeated, without another word. I closed the door behind her and stood in silence for a few seconds. Diana was the first to speak. What a shame about that girl. Honestly, I just wanted to know how that drama ended. That's why I told you to let her in, but it's clear there's nothing more to be done. I sat on the sofa, exhausted. Part of me felt anger, another part, compassion. As much as it pained me to admit it, I still had some pity for Esmeralda. She had destroyed my life in the past, but she had also destroyed her own. There was nothing left of the woman I once loved. The only thing in front of me was the result of her bad decisions. And although she asked for my help, I understood that I was not responsible for saving her. She had chosen another path, and now, she had to face it alone. That night I kept thinking. I reflected on the irony of the situation. I once believed my life was ruined because of what she did to me. And now I realize that it was actually a blessing in disguise. If Esmeralda hadn't abandoned me, I would have never met Diana. I would have never discovered that I could be loved genuinely, and have that love returned with respect. The pain I went through was necessary to lead me to where I am today. I'm writing this not for revenge, or to expose anyone, but to leave a record that even though life sometimes hits us in the cruelest way, it also opens up unexpected paths. I thought my wedding day was the end of my story, but it was actually the beginning of another. Today, after everything, I can say that I am stronger and that, although I carry scars, I am at peace.